The President of the United States, Donald Trump, stated today that Venezuela is completely surrounded. He also stressed that he ordered a full blockade on sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving the country.
The billionaire stated the American fleet in the Caribbean will keep growing until Venezuela returns all the oil, land, and assets stolen from the United States.
Venezuela has 10 days. 10 days until its oil has nowhere to go. 10 days until total collapse. Because Trump just did something unprecedented. He ordered a full blockade of the country. But here's the issue. Maduro won't accept that. Quieto, he just did something no one expected. And now Venezuelan and American warships are face to face in the Caribbean. Let me show you how we got here and why this could get out of control quickly. December 2025. Trump goes on television and makes a statement that changes everything. He says that Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest fleet ever assembled in the history of South America. And it's no exaggeration. On December 16th, Trump officially announces a total blockade, a real total blockade. All sanctioned oil tankers trying to enter or leave Venezuela will be intercepted. The justification: Trump accuses Maduro of stealing American oil, of leading a terrorist organization called Cartel de los Soles, and of using the country's resources to support what he calls an illegitimate regime. Now, you might think this is just political rhetoric, but it's not. 4 days earlier, on December 10th, things had already gotten real. American Special Forces intercept a tanker called Skipper in the middle of the Caribbean. They board the ship, take control, and divert it. 2 million barrels of Venezuelan oil simply confiscated. Venezuela calls it international piracy. The United States says it's law enforcement. But the important thing here is to understand one thing. They're not just monitoring ships, they're physically seizing them, and the fleet that Trump sent to do this is frightening. There's the United States ship. Gerald Ford, the most advanced aircraft carrier in the world, carrying over 75 warplanes, is so powerful that its planes can reach any point in Venezuela without needing a single land base. There are warships equipped with anti-missile systems that can track dozens of targets at the same time. There is a nuclear submarine silently gliding underwater, invisible, carrying Tomahawk missiles. And there's something that most people don't know. A ship called Ocean Trader. The Ocean Trader doesn't look like anything special. It's an ordinary merchant ship, the kind you see carrying cargo around. Inside, it has been turned into a mobile special operations base. It carries the Night Stalkers, the same elite unit that was used in the operation that killed Osama bin Laden. These are the pilots who fly helicopters on low-altitude night missions to insert special forces into enemy territory. And this ship is operating just 130 kilometers off the Venezuelan coast. Do you ever think about that, even for a second? American Special Forces, the same ones that carry out capture and elimination operations, are just a short helicopter ride away from Venezuela. And Trump just doubled the reward for capturing Maduro to $50 million. The last time the region saw an American military mobilization of this size was in 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis. But now there's a crucial difference. This time, the other side decided to react. Because while Trump was setting up this siege, Maduro made a decision that completely changed the game. He ordered the Venezuelan Navy to start escorting the country's oil tankers. Venezuelan warships now accompany every oil tanker that leaves for Asia, and here's the problem. When you put warships from two countries in the same waters, patrolling the same region, the chances of something going wrong increase exponentially. The New York Times made this very clear. The increased presence of military ships in the area raises the risk of a direct confrontation. It could be an incident, it could be an exchange of threats, it could be a real armed confrontation. Imagine the situation. A Venezuelan oil tanker is being escorted by a warship and an American destroyer intercepts it. The two face each other, who backs down first, and what if no one backs down? And there's another detail that makes all of this even more urgent. Remember those 10 days I mentioned at the beginning? According to Bloomberg, Venezuela only has enough oil storage capacity for 10 days. The country produces oil, but if it can't export it, the tanks fill up, and when the tanks are full, production has to stop. And stopping oil production can cause permanent damage to the reservoirs. So Maduro is literally racing against the clock. He needs those oil tankers to leave, and Trump just deployed the largest military fleet in the region to stop that. It's a recipe for disaster. But the story gets even more complicated, because while all this is happening, other countries are watching very closely, and some of them decided to test just how far American determination goes, literally. Now this week, let me tell you about the oil tanker Hyperion. This story happened over the last 2 days and shows exactly the kind of dangerous game that's being played right now. The Hyperion is an oil tanker flying the flag of Gambia, but it operates transporting Russian cargo. It's on the list of ships sanctioned by the United States and was carrying something that Venezuela desperately needs: 300,000 barrels of naphtha. This may seem technical, but it's crucial. Venezuelan oil is very thick and heavy, almost solid, and it needs to be diluted with naphtha so it can flow through the pipelines. Without naphtha, the oil literally solidifies in the pipelines. It's like blood in the country's veins. Cut off the naphtha supply and the entire oil industry stops. Hyperion. It loaded that naphtha near Murmansk in Russia at the end of November and started sailing towards Venezuela. Tuesday, December 16th, Trump announces the total blockade. The entire American fleet is on high alert. Any sanctioned ship that tries to enter or leave Venezuela will be intercepted. The order is clear. Then on Thursday night, just 2 days after the announcement of the blockade, the Hyperion enters Venezuelan waters. It passed today, Friday the 19th. It is anchored near Amway Bay on the west coast of Venezuela. A sanctioned Russian ship carrying crucial naphtha broke through the American blockade 48 hours after Trump said no ship would pass. Meanwhile, other ships are reacting to the blockade in different ways. The Agata, another sanctioned oil tanker coming from Russia, was seen changing course on Friday. 2 other ships, the Sophos and the Sea Maverick, are practically stopped near Guyana's waters, unsure whether to continue or turn back. And there's the Bataras, which had already turned back earlier this month, returning to Europe with its cargo still in the hold. But the Hyperion made it through. It's there, anchored, unloading naphtha. Now, this might seem like a small defeat for the Americans, but think about the meaning. Russia just showed that, even with all that fleet, even with the total blockade announced with pomp, they can break through. And if Russia can do it, others might try as well. And it's not just Russia that's challenging the United States. China, which is the largest buyer of Venezuelan oil and the country that has lent the most money to Venezuela, condemned the blockade as unilateral intimidation against China. This isn't just about Venezuela, it's about setting an example of what the United States can do. If the United States can block ships going to Venezuela, they can do the same with ships going to other places. The right of ships to freely navigate the oceans, which the United States itself has always defended, suddenly becomes a tool of political pressure. Russia went even further, warning that escalation in Latin America could have unpredictable consequences for the West, and that this is not an empty threat. Russia has already shown with Hyperion that it is willing to test the limits of the American blockade. And both Russia and China have massive economic interests in Venezuela, billions of dollars in loans, long-term oil agreements, and political and military influence in the Americas. They won't just stand by and watch Maduro fall without doing anything. But perhaps the most significant development didn't happen in the Caribbean, but in Washington. Because while Trump was mobilizing that gigantic fleet, some people in the American Congress started to get worried. They tried to pass resolutions to limit Trump's power to start military operations without congressional approval. The House of Representatives voted and the resolutions were rejected. 201 votes in favor, 213 against by a small margin, but they were rejected. Do you know what that means? Trump has the green light, he can keep escalating, he can send more ships, he can even authorize ground operations. And according to anonymous White House sources, that's exactly the plan. The ultimate goal isn't just to block the oil, it's to remove Maduro from power. So now we have a situation where the American president has implicit authorization from Congress. He has the largest military fleet in the region in decades and has a clear objective: regime change. On the other side is Maduro, with warships escorting oil tankers, with the clock ticking because of storage, and with powerful allies like Russia and China giving support. And the signs that this could escalate into something much worse are appearing every day. F-35 fighter jets, the most advanced warplanes in the world, completely invisible to radar, were detected flying just 75 kilometers off the Venezuelan coast. This isn't a routine patrol, this is deliberately entering the space that Venezuela considers its defense area. B-52 bombers, strategic aircraft capable of carrying nuclear weapons, conducted demonstration flights over the region. These are planes that weren't made for small skirmishes, they're planes made for mass destruction. They sent a message. The Venezuelan Minister of Defense called this a blatant provocation, an attempt to test the country's air defenses and measure how long it would take for Venezuelan fighter jets to respond. But there's something even more concerning. The White House leaked plans for a psychological operation. The idea was to drop leaflets over Caracas, highlighting the $50 million reward for the capture of Maduro, leaflets falling from the sky over the capital, reminding every general, every officer, every soldier that they could get rich if they turned in their own president. We don't know if this leaflet operation, which really happened on a large scale, but just the fact that the plan was leaked already works as a psychological weapon. It increases. The paranoia in Caracas makes Maduro look at his generals during meetings and wonder, who here is thinking about $50 million? Has anyone here had contact with the CIA? It's psychological warfare. And meanwhile, that ship I mentioned, the Ocean Trader, keeps operating in the shadows. It turns off its tracking systems to avoid being publicly monitored. But satellite images show it near Trinidad and Tobago, a short distance from Venezuela, with the Night Stalkers on board. With attack helicopters capable of launching capture or sabotage operations without warning, Trump has already said publicly that he does not rule out the option. Ground attacks. Sources say he authorized the CIA and the Pentagon to conduct covert operations inside Venezuela, and now all the ingredients for these operations are in place. History is full of wars that started by accident, that began with incidents no one planned, but that forced leaders to choose between looking weak or escalating the conflict. World War I started with an assassination that no one expected would lead to a continental war. Several Cold War crises almost escalated into nuclear conflict because of misunderstandings. And now, in the Caribbean, we have all the ingredients for one of those incidents: navies operating in close proximity, tensions at their peak, leaders under pressure to show strength, and no direct line of communication working to resolve crises quickly. The region is in a state of undeclared war. Peace literally depends on ship commanders and fighter pilots making the right decisions in moments of tension. The world is not paying as much attention as it should, but in the coming days and weeks, what happens in the Caribbean may determine not only the future of Venezuela, but the balance of power throughout Latin America and perhaps the relationship between the world's major powers. Now, I want to know your opinion. Do you think this will really escalate into an armed conflict, or is it just political pressure and in the end someone will back down? Leave in the comments what you think is going to happen, and if you found this video important, share it with someone who needs to understand what's happening in the Caribbean. Now, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with the geopolitical events that really matter. See you in the next video.